I said, Kaitlan, do you have a smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Kaitlan, just smile. But
Trump stood in a room full of the reporters who hate him and completely humiliated them one by one, and they had no choice but to laugh along. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's check it out.
But I want to personally congratulate CNN's Caitlan Collins on receiving her award. It was all about me. It's a fake. She shouldn't get the award. It was a fake, but I didn't mind. I said, Kaitlan, congratulations. But it was fake. There's no question about it. But she's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Kaitlan, do you have a smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Kaitlan, just smile. But
he didn't attack her. He just told the truth. She never smiles because being a mouthpiece for CNN isn't exactly fun work.
We attack, and I thought Kaitlan had really made it big with a major new sponsorship, but then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can. It was Dylan Mulvaney. And Dylan Mulvaney cost Bud Light $35 billion in market cap. That was the worst commercial ever made, by the way, for those few people that want to hear that. Most people don't care, but I would. I wouldn't want to hire Dylan anytime soon. Think of it, they hired Dylan Mulvaney, and their market cap has gone down by $35 billion. Who wrote that commercial?
$35 billion. Gone. Because a company chose a headline over its own customers. He said the number twice because it deserves to be said twice.
And then you have writer Josh Dorsey. He also received, he's been killing me for years. No, he's been, and yet tonight he shakes my hand, he hugs me, everything nice. He kills me. Josh is amazing. He writes more stories than any human being. There's nobody that writes more than Josh. He'll write 4 stories about me a day, all different subjects. I mean, I had the other day 3 stories and one on the, he was upset about this. 1 was on page 7, 3 were on page 1. They were all written by Josh, but he's hit the big time, and he's a workhorse, and yet he's almost unhireable. You know, he's just one of these guys. Wall Street Journal's lucky to have him, but you really, it's unbelievable. He's almost unhireable. CNN.
Almost unhireable about a guy who writes 4 hit pieces on him a day? That's not an insult, that's a receipt.
Is also here, and I'm very disappointed they didn't bring Fake Tapper because he's had a rough couple of years, Fake has. You know, he calls me up every once in a while. If I pick it up, pick up my phone. I used to go to this young lady. I'd say, any calls from the press? No, sir. I said, oh, now I'm the president of the United States, right? I'd say to Stephen Chung, is Stephen here someplace? Where's Stephen? He's one of the toughest human beings I've ever met. Don't ever wrestle Stephen, you'll be in big trouble. But I say, Stephen, let me ask you, did the press call? No, sir. You know, when I was a developer, I'd get a call every half an hour. For whatever reason, I always got disproportionate press. So I said, Stephen, nobody called? No, sir. 2 hours later, I say, hi, Steve, how are we doing? Everything good? Anybody call? No, sir, no press calls. I said, I'm president. Nope, they never call. So this went on for about a week. I'd say, Caroline, did the press call? No, sir, no calls. I said, nothing. That's over a week. I haven't received a call. So I said, you know what I'll do? I'm going to give the press my phone number. That was the stupidest thing I ever did. I'm getting a call every 3.7 minutes. Stephen, I don't know where the hell you've been, but the press calls, I'm getting calls, ring, ring. I was with somebody today. They said, I've never heard a phone ring as much as fresh. Now, I look at the thing and usually just delete, delete, delete. Every once in a while, it'll be one of the people in this room that I like, and I'll pick it up. Like this one right here calls me on occasion, right? She'll call me and she says, hello, sir. How are you? We want to talk about some horrible subject, like a horrible, depressing subject. I say, Jackie, I don't want to talk about it. Congratulations, however, on your new marriage. But I don't want to talk about it. But it's true. And people call me now. And so for weeks I go, no calls. And I learned then that both of them, they feel that I'm doing a great job and they feel I'm above it all. And that no person, hundreds of people call no person, is good enough to talk to Trump. And so we don't even bother telling you. That's not the way it works, Caroline. You have to let me know, because sometimes I do like to speak to the press, but now I have the best system I've ever had. It rings, and just so you understand, you're much better at putting your name, because if there's no name, I just can't do that. You know, I pick up every once in a while. Hello, I'm from Reno, Nevada. We're a startup paper. We're calling us the Reno Express. I said, do you believe I'm the president of the United States? Mr. President, could I have your views on Iran? And I just hang up. No, I get the craziest calls. I mean, some of them, my wife said, I can't believe you do this. This is a hell of a way to live.
Notice they're all laughing. Because deep down, even the press knows this is the most honest anyone's ever been about how much they despise him.
But sometimes they get calls from very important. Sometimes I can straighten out stories that are going to be fake, and I can make them from a fake story to a good story. I always find that when you don't speak to the press, you always get a bad story. When you do speak to the press, you have a shot at getting a good story. Oh, look. No, look, if I were a reporter, and let's say I'm a big reporter, I work for the failing New York Times, or I work for, well, I don't know, do they ever come to these dinners? Didn't they cancel out a long time ago? Big mistake. They should be here. But I get a call. I've always found that, you know, speaking to them, you just do better. You do better when you can, when you have the time. You speak to the reporter. You treat the reporter with respect. Sometimes now there are reporters where it doesn't matter. You can be so nice to them, it doesn't matter. You get treated unfairly. But you have a lot of great reporters where when you speak to them, you can get your point across, and that's a good thing.
Every reporter he just roasted was sitting right there, and every single one of them clapped. Say what you want about the man, but nobody else in politics could stand in that room and get away with this.